Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving deep into some alternative ways to think about healing from trauma.
Trauma healing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are out there are looking for ways to heal that don't necessarily involve just taking a pill, right? And so we're really excited to kind of dig into this topic today.
Absolutely.
We're going to be primarily focusing on a Big Think video by Dr. Bessel van der Kolk.
Okay.
Now, he is like a leading expert in the field of trauma.
Yeah.
He's got over 50 years of experience.
Wow.
So we're talking about someone who's been in the trenches and really knows his stuff.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I found fascinating about this video is that he talks about some really surprising findings.
Oh, like what?
Like, for example, did you know that yoga has actually been shown to be more effective than conventional drugs
Really?
for PTSD in certain studies?
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and that's just like the tip of the iceberg.
So are we saying that yoga is like the cure for PTSD?
No, not exactly.
Okay.
It's not a cure-all. But it's definitely something that has shown some promising results.
Yeah.
And I think it speaks to the fact that there are a lot of different ways to approach healing that we might not even be aware of.
That makes sense.
So to really understand how we got to these alternative approaches,
Yeah.
we need to kind of take a step back and look at the more traditional methods.
Okay. Yeah. Where do we start?
Well, Dr. van der Kolk, in the beginning, he was actually really focused on pharmacological treatments for PTSD.
Oh, so like the medication route.
Exactly.
Okay. Interesting. So he was initially a proponent of like the quick fix mentality.
Yeah, I think at the time there was this hope
Yeah.
that maybe a pill could solve the problem.
Makes sense.
So he actually conducted some of the first studies using medications like Prozac and Zoloft for PTSD. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
The results weren't what they expected.
Oh, really?
Yeah, these medications, which are effective for other conditions,
Right.
showed very limited success when it came to PTSD.
That is surprising.
It is. And I think that was a pivotal moment.
Yeah.
Because it made people realize that maybe the conventional approach was missing something crucial.
Right, because trauma is not just a chemical imbalance in the brain.
Okay.
It's much more complex than that.
It's so deeply rooted in our experiences and memories.
Yeah.
And it's not something that can just be easily erased with a pill.
So what happened then? Did Dr. van der Kolk abandon medication altogether?
He didn't abandon it completely,
Right.
but his perspective started to shift. He started to explore psychotherapy more.
Oh, interesting. So instead of trying to fix people,
Yeah.
he wanted to help them understand and process their trauma.
Precisely. And a big part of that was this emphasis on self-compassion.
Self-compassion.
Yeah, like understanding that your reactions to trauma are a natural response to what you've experienced.
That's huge, I think.
It is. It's about not blaming yourself,
Right.
but instead creating space for healing and understanding.
Yeah, instead of like, oh, why am I reacting this way? It's, of course I'm reacting this way, given what I've been through.
Exactly.
So are you ready to move on to something a little less conventional?
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Lay it on me.
All right. Have you ever heard of EMDR?
EMDR,
Yeah, I've heard of it.
eye movement desensitization and reprocessing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll be honest, though, the whole finger wiggling thing always kind of made me skeptical.
Yeah, it sounds a little out there.
How does that even work?
Well, basically what happens is you recall a traumatic memory
Okay.
while you're visually tracking the therapist's finger movements.
So you're like watching their fingers go back and forth?
Yeah, and it sounds strange.
It does sound strange.
I know.
But it's been shown to be really effective.
It has, yeah. And studies have shown that it can actually change brain circuitry.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
So it physically changes the brain.
Yeah, EMDR can actually impact the areas of the brain that are associated with fear processing and memory.
So the eye movements, they kind of help the brain reprocess those traumatic memories
Interesting.
and integrate them into a narrative that's less threatening.
So it's not like it erases the memories,
No,
but it helps you kind of reframe them.
exactly. It's like you're helping your brain understand that the danger has passed,
Right.
even though the memory itself is still there.
That's incredible. It's like rewiring your brain for resilience.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Okay, you've definitely piqued my interest with EMDR.
Okay, good.
But you know what else I found really interesting in this video?
Yeah.
Was this idea of using yoga for trauma.
Yoga.
Yeah.
Interesting. How does that work?
Well, it seems like kind of a big jump from finger wiggling therapy.
Yeah, it does.
But the research is actually really compelling.
Okay.
And I think it really highlights that mind-body connection that's so important in healing.
Yeah, because trauma affects the whole body,
Exactly.
not just the mind.
So with yoga, you're cultivating this deep connection with your body through breath work, movement, and awareness.
Okay.
And it's like creating a safe space within yourself.
I can see how that would be helpful.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy?
But
A study actually found that yoga outperformed medication
really?
in treating PTSD.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it makes you wonder why we're not seeing more psychopharmacology clinics
Yeah.
transform into yoga studios, right?
Oh, right. That's a good point.
But speaking of using the body to heal,
Yeah.
there's another approach that I thought was really fascinating.
Okay, what's that?
And that's using theater and movement for trauma healing.
Theater and movement. Interesting.
Yeah,
That sounds pretty out there.
I know, but it's actually more common than you might think.
Really?
Yeah, there's this incredible program called Shakespeare in the Courts.
Shakespeare in the courts.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
So basically, juvenile delinquents are directed by the court to participate in Shakespearean theater.
Wow, that's interesting.
I know, right?
So they're like literally acting out Shakespeare.
Literally acting out Shakespeare as part of their rehabilitation.
Wow, I would never have thought of that.
And the results are amazing.
Okay, so how does this help them heal from trauma?
Well, by embodying different roles
Mm.
and exploring these emotions through movement,
Yeah.
it allows them to experience their bodies and emotions in a completely new way.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's like they're rewriting their internal scripts
Mm-hmm.
through physical expression.
Interesting.
And it gives them this safe space
Yeah.
to process those experiences and emotions without having to do traditional talk therapy.
So it's like a different way of accessing those emotions.
Exactly. It taps into a different part of the brain,
Okay.
a part that can sometimes bypass those defenses that we might put up in traditional therapy.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that.
Okay, so we've talked about EMDR, we've talked about yoga,
Yeah.
we've talked about theater and movement,
What else is there?
but there's still more.
Oh, there's more.
Yeah, buckle up because this next one is pretty high tech.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
It's called neurofeedback.
Neurofeedback, what is that?
So it's basically brain training for trauma recovery.
Brain training. That sounds intense.
It is. It's really cool.
Okay, so how does it work?
Well, they use electrodes to monitor brainwave patterns.
Okay.
And then the individual receives feedback, often in the form of visual or auditory cues that encourage them to shift their brainwave activity
Interesting.
towards patterns that are associated with calmness and focus.
So you're basically training your brain to be more calm and focused.
Exactly. It's like a guided meditation,
Okay.
but with real-time feedback from your brainwaves.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it can be really helpful for people who struggle with anxiety, hypervigilance,
Yeah.
those common symptoms of PTSD.
That makes sense.
Now, for something a little more controversial,
Oh, controversial.
we have MDMA-assisted therapy.
MDMA.
Yeah, and I know that Dr. Kolk was initially very hesitant to explore psychedelics
Yeah, I can understand why.
because of the legal status and the potential impact on his career.
Right, that's a big risk.
So how did he end up getting involved in this research?
Well, he had two colleagues who approached him
Oh,
who are really passionate about the therapeutic potential of MDMA for trauma. And they actually ended up securing funding
okay.
for a large-scale study on MDMA-assisted therapy for PTSD.
Wow. So this wasn't some like underground experiment. This was a legitimate scientific study.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
And Dr. Kolk ended up supporting it.
Okay, so what did they find?
Well, the results were pretty remarkable.
No, really? In what way?
So participants in the study received MDMA in a very controlled setting with the support of trained therapists.
Okay.
And they would basically lie on a bed for 8 hours.
8 hours.
8 hours with two therapists present, just allowing them to process their trauma in this really safe and supportive environment.
Okay.
And what they found was that the MDMA seemed to facilitate this profound self-compassion.
Self-compassion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it allowed them to revisit those traumatic memories without being overwhelmed by that fear and pain.
So it wasn't that the MDMA erased the memories or numbed the emotions,
Right.
but it created the right conditions for healing to occur.
Exactly.
That's fascinating.
But it's important to remember that MDMA-assisted therapy is not a quick fix.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's a really powerful experience.
Right.
It can be intense, and it requires careful integration
Okay.
and ongoing therapeutic support.
So it's not just a one-time thing.
No, it's definitely a process.
Okay.
And I think this leads to one of Dr. Kolk's most important messages,
Which is
that when it comes to healing from trauma, one size does not fit all.
right. That makes sense.
There's no magic bullet.
Yeah.
There's no single approach that will work for everyone.
Because everyone's trauma is different.
Exactly.
And everyone responds to treatment differently.
And so it's really a process of experimentation to discover what brings the most relief and healing for you as an individual.
So it's about empowering yourself to explore different options
Exactly.
and find what works best for you.
Yeah, and your unique experiences, your unique needs.
Right.
And I think that's something that's really important for our listeners to hear.
Yeah, definitely.
There's no pressure to find the perfect solution.
Mm.
It's about approaching this healing journey with a sense of curiosity.
Curiosity.
And openness.
Openness, yeah. I like that. It is a lot to take in.
There's just so much out there.
Yeah.
And I think it can feel a little overwhelming for people.
Right. Where do you even start?
Exactly. Like, okay, all this sounds interesting, but
Yeah.
what's the first step?
Well, I think the most important thing is to remember that healing is a journey.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a race. You don't have to do everything at once.
Yeah, small steps.
Small steps, exactly.
Right.
So maybe you start by just learning more about one of these approaches
Okay.
that really resonated with you.
Like if you're intrigued by EMDR, yeah, you could look for therapists in your area who specialize in that technique.
Exactly. And if yoga is calling to you,
Yeah.
maybe try a beginner's class.
Or even just some gentle stretches at home.
Absolutely.
Right.
Just start somewhere.
And for those who are interested in theater and movement,
Yeah.
maybe look for community theater groups or workshops.
That's a great idea.
There are even resources specifically for trauma survivors.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a lot out there.
Okay, so what about the more high-tech stuff?
Like neurofeedback.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're drawn to that,
Mm-hmm.
do your research, find some reputable practitioners.
Okay.
See if it's something you want to explore.
And MDMA.
Ah, yes, MDMA.
I'm really curious about that.
It's definitely something to approach with caution.
Right. Safety first.
Work only with qualified professionals in a safe and controlled setting.
Absolutely.
And be aware of the legal implications.
Yeah, it's not legal everywhere.
Right, but it is really exciting to see the promising research that's coming out about MDMA-assisted therapy.
Yeah, it's like opening up new possibilities for healing.
It really is. And I think that's what's so amazing about this whole conversation.
Yeah.
It's about expanding our awareness of all the different pathways to healing.
Right. There's not just one way.
And empowering ourselves to make informed choices.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Okay, I like that.
If you could whisper one piece of wisdom to your younger self
Yeah.
who might be struggling with the effects of trauma,
Okay.
what would it be?
You know, I think I would say you are not broken. You are not alone. And you have the strength within you to heal.
That's so beautiful
Thank you.
and so true.
Yeah, I think that's something we all need to hear sometimes.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's been a pleasure being here.
It's been an amazing conversation.
Yeah, I've learned a lot.
Me too. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to this deep dive
Yeah.
into the world of trauma healing.
We hope you found it helpful.
We hope you feel empowered
Yeah.
to continue your own journey of healing.
Absolutely. And remember, you're not alone.
You are not alone.
There's always hope.
Always hope.
Until next time, take care.